Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm from the ADHD Advocate. And as you know, this month we at the ADHD Advocate are celebrating ADHD Awareness Month. And this week we are focusing on friends and family. So today we're lucky enough to have Matt Travis join us. We're talking about how to support adolescents with ADHD. And Matt is a trainee coaching psychologist, but I'll let him introduce himself. Matt, welcome. So Matt, tell us a bit about your background and I guess, what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, just wanted to say quickly, thank you very much for this opportunity, Stephanie. Something that I'm really passionate about, working with young people and also mindfulness-based therapies, which we're going to talk about. So as Stephanie said, I've been mainly working with young people at risk, young people in prison, in the sort of criminal justice system. And I have a particular interest of using mindfulness-based therapies with like a young person.
How do you find, can I ask you, Matt, because there is a lot of research that's been done recently, I guess, in relation to mindfulness and the benefits of mindfulness for ADHD is, I guess a lot of people, when they think of ADHD, they think of hyperactive kids that can't sit still. So how do you apply mindfulness principles to kids like that?
On that note, I'm just going to quickly close the window because it's very noisy.
Okay.
Brilliant, that's better. Yeah, I think you have to be careful more, not so much with people with very busy minds, because I think mindfulness can still be useful for that. But I think you have to be careful about trauma. So I would say to be quite cautious about using mindfulness-based therapies with people with severe trauma. So it really depends what the cause of the ADHD is, because you don't want to be getting people to sit in something very uncomfortable. So that would be the only caveat. But I think as someone with a very busy brain myself, it was challenging to begin with, but because of neuroplasticity, we can actually grow this capacity to focus, even if it's difficult.
So, I mean, a lot of ADHD is when we coach them, because, yeah, we also obviously very much believe in mindfulness as well. And DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, incorporate mindfulness. And we know that that has been recommended for ADHDs. Apparently, previously, it was very much, I think, for bipolar disorder, but now they can see the benefits of dialectical behavioral therapy for ADHDs. But it's that the mindfulness element, a lot of it literally terrifies ADHDers because of their fear of losing interest, that you're sitting there with nothing to do. And, the thoughts coming in. And as you said, if there's trauma, they can be very, uncomfortable thoughts. So yeah, how do you help people sit with that discomfort, overcome that kind of barrier?
Well, actually, the interesting thing is they've done some like more research recently, which suggests that a curiosity is actually obviously a sort of signature strength of ADHD. And actually, the focus part might be challenging for people with ADHD, but the curiosity piece and the exploration piece makes it actually easier, provided that the person with ADHD is interested in exploring themselves. Then actually they can take to it better than a typical person.
That's really interesting actually to note, because as well, we know with William Dodson, the elements that he talks about engaging the ADHD brain, ICNOP, interest, challenge, because it is a challenge, right? So ADHD is challenging themselves. I can do this 5 minutes, and then next, can I do 10? So I guess that would be helpful. Novelty, it's a new thing. Urgency, I'm not quite sure about the urgency of it and the passion for it, but definitely sounds like interest and challenge would be key elements here for motivation to do mindfulness.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what differences have you seen? So you said that you take this, this approach to mindfulness. Where do you derive that from? What other principles are involved, do you find, that kind of really help adolescents with ADHD?
I think with adolescents, you have to sell it to them.
Mm.
So I think you've got to be careful to make it sound like something they would be interesting to learn. So I often refer to sports stars, music stars, people that they will have heard of, that they respect, often use these mindfulness techniques to focus and to deal with pressure of performance. So that's the first thing. I think you've got to get a buy-in, particularly with people from, in the adolescent kind of age span. But yeah, there are lots of different facets of why mindfulness works, which I'm
Love
happy
to hear.
to speak.
That'd
Yeah,
be helpful. Yeah.
I think the main one that I did some research on in my master's was emotion regulation, and obviously young people with ADHD have a lot of different emotions going on, maybe in a more sort of tumultuous way. And I would say the principal, if I can say that, is is to it encourages responding rather than reacting. So when we have a difficult thought or feeling, we tend to become reactive to it. And what mindfulness encourages us to do is to take a moment, pause, and really using our prefrontal cortex to decide how we want to respond to a particular feeling. And that is obviously a challenge in adolescents, and particularly in adolescents with ADHD, but it can be trained. And one of the ways to do that is using something called diffusion or decentering or distancing. So basically we could look at the thought literally like we're watching it on a screen, or even you can do an exercise where you're talking to it on seeing it in your hand. And that actually, just the very fact of distancing it, down regulates our sympathetic nervous system, because we're no longer inside the middle of this feeling or thought. We are able to actually observe it. And so we relate to thoughts as facts. Not as facts, as just thoughts passing. And the same with feelings. They come and they go, and we let them come and they go. And if we are able to do this consistently, we're less likely to be enmeshed in it.
Yeah, it's very difficult, isn't it, for ADHD? Is it's creating that space in order to kind of hold that space to get that perspective, which for us ADHD is, even obviously in adulthood, we struggle with that too. It continues, and what it sounds like, it's a bit of a case of, when you're stuck in that whirlwind of the thoughts, feelings, it's about, you need to somehow step out of it.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And that, I think, is one of the most important parts, as well as acceptance and equanimity.
What do you mean
And
by
acceptance.
So for people,
Sorry?
equanimity, what do
Oh
you
yeah, equanimity is a bit of a sort of fancy word, taken from Buddhism. Really, it just means that you accept life and situation as it is, and you're not fighting against what is, essentially. And that could be an internal event, or it could be an external event. So but it's not, I think the problem people have with acceptance, they think, oh well, I'm just going to allow this to happen, I'm just going to not do anything. But actually, acceptance in this way of thinking of it is just allowing the emotion that is already there just to be there, and to sit with it without fighting it, without pushing it away, without distracting yourself. And when you're able to do this, it's also processes the emotion, because it's actually being felt, and we become less reactive to it over time.
Yeah, there's a saying, what you resist persists. So I guess
Exactly.
that's very much. And I know with the young people, when they do resist, they then become very anxious that, that this thing never goes away, because they're still trying to push it away, and it keeps coming back, and then they get more anxious. So I guess that part about acceptance, accepting that they're there, these thoughts are there, and it's okay. Creating that distance from those thoughts, that must reduce their anxiety, so they're able to kind of move forward, perhaps. Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, because obviously we are wired to have aversion towards unpleasant experiences, right? Thought we want to get away from them, we want to distract ourselves from them. It's a very human thing. But the irony is that the more you run away, as you said, the less they're processed and the more they'll come back, because often they're based on something. This is where compassion comes in. They're based on something that is understandable. For instance, if we have a fear of something, it's usually because we obviously don't want to be at harm or anything bad to happen. So if we're able to accept it and go, oh, I know why you're here, fear, but I'm not going to let you get in the way of what I want to do and what my values are. But I'm still going to let you be there. And there's a metaphor about passengers on a bus. And if you think of difficult emotions being each a passenger on the bus, they're still on the bus, but we are the driver of the bus.
I like that.
And
Yeah,
someone else made that up, not me.
no, but that's all the sayings that I say as well. Someone else made them up. Name it to tame it, which is that as well. But yeah, so then you're not using all that brain space to like fight the fear or try to push the thought down that just keeps coming back up again. So you're freeing up, I guess, that space as well in order to respond to things versus just react. Because I guess the other problem with ADHD is that we hyperfocus. So that ability to focus on those negative thoughts is stronger than neurotypicals for neurotypicals.
And that's why I think second wave CBT as opposed to these are third wave CBT practices, mindfulness and ACT and CFT. I think maybe they might be more tailored towards people with ADHD because you're not disputing the thoughts, you're not challenging the thought, you're not getting into a kind of argument about whether it's true or not. You're literally just allowing it to be there and then letting it pass and then refocusing on what you want to focus on. And when you do that enough times, it's a bit like a child. If you get angry at the child will get angry back. If you try and ignore them, they'll probably come and pester you more. And it's the same with thoughts and feelings. But if you allow them to be there and you're in a sort of calm, compassionate, relaxed state, and you say, yes, you can be here, but I'm also getting on with this, then actually the child tends to calm down. It's the same thing with our inner experiences.
I love those analogies. And again, something ADHD is really engaged with. We're able to better access these lessons through the kind of analogies that you presented today. So that's really, really helpful. So I guess just in kind of concluding then, Matt, is there anything else that would be helpful to know about how best to support adolescents with ADHD?
I would say just to be positive about it, and look at what the positives of having ADHD are. As we mentioned before, the curiosity, the exploration. I think you have to find a way in to what they're interested in. So for instance, I would probably tailor this to, instead of saying you have to focus on your breath or you have to focus on a part of your body, perhaps they are someone that loves movement. So I might say, just be mindful of a particular movement or a particular sound if they're like musical. Or so I think you have to work with the strengths of ADHD and then try and jump onto that, wed it to that, so that you are feeding into their actual natural interests, and there's evidence suggests that they will take to it and they can hugely benefit from it in terms of self-regulation, actually growing prefrontal and limbic connections in the brain, and all of this has been proven, and it can be an adjunct to medication. Sorry.
No, it's like what we say. Yeah, like what we say in coaching, the pills don't give skills, they don't give that the lens, they really don't. The strategies and structures, support systems that we need. So yeah, this has been really helpful, Matt. Thank you. And I'm sure we will talk to Matt again. Maybe later on you could provide like some further information or links around these kind of approaches. But thank you for coming and speaking and raising ADHD awareness.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And so next we will be talking to Scarlett, and we'll be talking about the children and specifically and how ADHD coaching helps children adopt that same lens, change their narrative and empower them to live their best life with ADHD. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.